Hello again. I don't know if sequels are always worse than the originals. It certainly does seem to be a trend that way. But on this note, we have a Do the Right Thing 2 from Chambers at the FCA. And firstly, what I would say is there is nothing wrong with outlining your achievements or how you feel that you've improved a system or a situation, and they have had some successes, and there's nothing wrong with bringing that to the attention of people. But there are some other trends which I'm just going to go over in this video, and I've used the description to do that. The first thing I would say in its tone relative to one, it's a lot more aggressive and assertive. I think that's a reflection of the secondary objective in this arrangement they have with the government, where the government have said, we'll carry you on accountability on catastrophic failures if you help us on the growth objective. So that's definitely translated in it, and it's quite forceful in terms of what I term I've used this term in a previous video, the deification of data or judgment. So that they have a definitive and unquestionable stance on what is right. Now, of course, what is right is a metaphysical term. It's a metaphysical creation by people, and they want to use it in a definitive way and a malleable way. So definitive, we are always right, and a malleable way of what is right, that we are right about. So you can see how the two fit together and give you this almost unassailable situation where you can dominate a sector. The other alarming trend is the use of discounts, so in terms of fines and outcomes. So imposing a judgment on somebody, we are right, this is what we believe, and you can either accept it and show submission and homage to it and get some sort of leniency against what you might get, or you can question it and we'll hit you harder. That is a very, very dangerous way of approaching justice. It's a very authoritarian, arbitrary way of approaching justice. And it's a dangerous path to go on, although I can see why it appeals to the Starmer government, because he's very much an authoritarian, using the original political spectrum. Far right Keir Starmer, likes authoritarian big state government, and it very much fits that mould. There's a few other things that I just want to raise, and I pasted in the comments about Barclays and WealthTek. So he talks about how the Barclays were sort of punished for two basic errors. One, failing to check whether WealthTek had relevant permissions for a client money account, and failed to check what they were going to use it for. But notice he said that we began an investigation on this April of this year, whereas if you were to look at the book Lost the Races, April of the previous year, I'd made those very same points. So I would say, well, why have you taken so long to instigate an investigation when it was brought to your attention 12 months prior, and the money that you've been able to persuade Barclays to contribute to client losses could have been made available 12 months earlier? So it's quite extraordinary. The other aspect is the saying that Barclays were lax and so on and so forth, and they were. It does look like the fine is very low for the scale of it, and I think they quote something like £34 million that was passed through this account, and they allege that John took a large chunk of that to fund a lavish lifestyle. But I've also posted in, as a reminder, a series of warnings that I gave to them in the summer of 2021, giving them the easy route to check that there was a major problem here. And if you look, I'm sort of saying go and check these assets under management statistics or claims that were on the Vertum website, because that was the easy route. Remember, the harder route that I gave them, which has been subsequently done by BDO, was to go and conduct an exercise into all the cash flows between the regulated bit and the associated LLPs. But going back to the assets under management, you can see I'm pleading with them to go and check that. I've also made the point that I believe that the investor clients had been removed from these operational issues, and I was very concerned about those left behind. And if you look at the and I've sort of brought to the attention as well that there were a lot of factors in the public domain that if they were in an inquisitive mindset, would be able to piece together a scenario where there was a major problem. So they didn't even have to go into in-depth investigation. There was a lot in the public domain that could have brought their way of thinking round to, we need to go and check. We need to go to Newcastle and check what this chap is saying here. Also look at the 250 million plus assets under management, where it was claimed that Burton was managing at this time. I've also posted at the bottom a segment from the BDO audit where it says the platform assets were, I think it was 233 million. So if you think about it, Vertum, when I brought it to their attention, had lost a major client, investor. I said, this claim is inflated, you need to check it. So this at 250 million in summer 2021 was vastly higher than the combined value of the platform assets, which included Mallet Melville and the other users of the platform, which probably would have grown in that time. So you can see the scale of the overstatement and why it should have mattered to them, and now you can see where I was coming from. The situation is, you can't take that line with people like Barclays who were very, very lax and let people down. I made that point in the book, but without recognising you yourself have done the same, and trying to be threatening and authoritarian against people who say you've got to look at the context of where these failures have come from in terms of your own shortcomings is a very, very dangerous path to go on. Now, there are no specific references to detectives in books in this, but there is a reference at the bottom, which I pasted in. What Chambers is saying is, we're no Wizard of the Oz or something like that. We all make mistakes, and companies can take us on, but we'll dig our heels in, i.e. threaten them, essentially. But the strange thing is with the Wizard of Oz, actually the book is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and I have read it. And the strange thing is when the sort of curtain or screen comes down, effectively, I think Dorothy's dog Toto does it, knocks it. It's seen that the wizard isn't a wizard at all. He's kind of a very frail old man who sort of ended up where he was via a misdirected hot air balloon flight, and effectively projected this image of falsity to maintain his authoritarianism. So it's a very interesting, and I've actually used this reference in the previous video, so I wonder if she's trying to be a little sarcastic, and but it's terribly backfired on her, because strange enough, when we look behind the curtain at the FCA, we saw some very similar things with this all-empowering wizard of a regulator was not quite all what it seemed. In particular, when we looked at Link, in terms of, we can't take really enforcement. You could see it. They looked at how they could take potentially enforcement action against Link, and then suddenly realised that, Actually, Link will just say that we kept you informed about this situation right the way through all of our actions, and you didn't object or step in to protect consumers, which you could have done at any time if you believe we were taking the wrong course of action. And they had to kind of put it into an opaque scheme of arrangement to protect themselves ahead of really looking after the clients. And the clients of Woodford faced the worst case scenario where they essentially had a fire sale of assets. That could have been avoided. The other thing was when we started to look at the scale of warnings they received from people regarding concerns about compliance of the business. Now, I'm not saying they were correct, but there were concerns raised. So again, there's another situation there, and it'll be interesting whether this comes out. But they have a situation here with Woodford where their own shortcomings, their own failures are bound up in what happened, just like they are with Barclays, just like they are with WealthTek. And that's your situation. You can only try to glue together this terrible conflict of interest between being a regulator and a prosecutor by authoritarianism and threatening people by saying this is right, accept it, or face the consequences, on the assumption that they have a monopoly on what is right, which of course they don't. That's it for now. Take care.